Moving on, for decades, Nigeria has been plagued by oil theft and pipeline vandalism, resulting in huge economic losses. For a country that depends majorly on resources from petroleum, oil, and gas, the situation grows increasingly worrisome as Nigeria struggles to meet national development objectives. And this is, if this is likely to improve, then Nigeria may need more financial resources in its pocket. Well, while there are varying thoughts on those largely responsible for crude oil theft in Nigeria, it is, however, clear that the theft or crude oil theft remains a clear and present danger to Nigeria's national development goals. And there is no contention about that whatsoever. Let me bring in my guest at this point. He is an associate professor and petroleum economist, Dr. Ahmed Adamu. Dr. Adamu is of the Department of Economics, now University of Nigeria, here in Abuja. Welcome to the program, Doc.
Thank you so much for having me.
Does it suffice to say that the lingering issue of oil theft in Nigeria hints at the prevalence of deep-rooted issues of corruption and security vulnerabilities in the country? Most Nigerians are familiar with the pictures that we see online, stories that we hear of bucket thieves, and these illegal refineries in parts of the Niger Delta. Yet, even more recently, we hear contending voices of leaders from that region saying that the issue is clearly beyond these bucket thieves and that there are powerful forces at play. Well, that is also considering, that the argument is that whatever amount that these bucket thieves and illegal refineries still on a daily basis is a drop, just a drop in the ocean when compared to what happens on a much grander scale with cartels in Lagos and Abuja. I mean, that is the argument that people like former governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Seraki Dixon, and more recently, Pandef, are all putting forward. How logical are these arguments, especially when you juxtapose potential daily crude output against actual output?
Well, you see, the petrol resources, everyone thinks he should get his fair share because people don't think that will translate to the desired development. So if they have any opportunity to get it by themselves, they will do that. And one wrong does not make the other right. I mean, if someone did something wrong, there's no
Isn't that the argument that sparked the militancy in the Niger Delta back in the day, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, because if we have this like on the grand scale or large scale
yes.
Theft, like you mentioned, that does not justify the small theft, because if we put together all these small thefts, it will amount to a big amount. And it's not about the quantity you steal from the main pipeline. It's the effect you are causing in the production, because a small crack or illegal connection on the pipeline will lead to a drop in the pressure in the pipeline.
True.
And if the pressure drops, the oil well back from the beginning, it has to be shut down. And it's always difficult to bring back this oil well after they are shut down. And even if you are going to revive these oil wells, it comes with huge costs. And some of these wells, we have to give them up because they're already matured wells because of these cracks or illegal connections. Even if you are stealing one bucket, that one bucket can lead to the loss of more than 5,000 barrels from a particular well. And sometimes, even if this well is have to be revived back, the pressure will not be sufficient, will not be as it used to be. So you see someone is trying to steal 500 barrels of crude oil, and he thinks that this is small, but might cost the country more than 5,000 barrels in a day. And that might even lead to the shutdown of the well. And that's huge cost on the economy. So people should not underestimate what they're stealing.
Of course.
If you are stealing crude oil, you are stealing crude oil. You should not justify someone's stealing and say you're going to steal. So, but people need to believe that this is a common resource that everyone needs or rely on. Because if you look at the current situation in the country, the easiest way to get out of this situation, to make life easier for the government and for the people, is the oil sector.
True.
And the oil sector will never thrive unless we fix the issue of the oil theft. And now, if you look at the entire economy, The only sector that we have the largest foreign investment is the oil sector. And this theft or this oil stealing is sending away these investors. And if these investors leave Nigeria, because we have other frontier exploration sites in other countries, new countries are finding new discoveries, and Shell's, Totals are divesting from Nigeria, leaving the onshore sites. They are now moving offshore, and now even leaving the country. And if these people leave the country, then the oil sector that we have been relying on will no longer be reliable, because it's the oil sector that brought us where we are. That's and true. For us to get out of this situation, it's still the oil sector. It's the readily available option for us to revamp the economy back. And we have to also realize the costs, the opportunity cost of this theft. If you look at what the Mele Kyari of NNPC said, Nigeria, we can conveniently do 2 million barrels in a day. But we are doing less than 1.5 million barrels. 1.6. And if you look at this, it's all because of the theft. And we talk about vandalism, is for the theft. If you talk about insecurity, is to enable or to provide the environment for people to steal the oil. So any issue you talk about that is bedeviling the sector, yes, is to enable these people to continue doing what they're doing. I'm not saying that it's not only the small or bucket thieves. But I'm also acknowledging that there are large-scale theft going on.
Great, and I think I figured that was the argument, or that is the argument from leaders from the Niger Delta region who are saying, look, there are different levels to this. Yeah. You know, there is the small level and there's the big level, and the government should pay more attention to the big level. Of course, not discountenancing, you know, the activities of pipeline vendors. And, you know, when you put all of this together, like you've rightly said, it accrues to significant economic losses to Nigeria as well. I'm sure you follow the NNPCL's records on oil theft. I mean, the company only recently identified some of the more active hotspots for crude oil theft in the Niger Delta. You know, I see on the list communities like Ohaji, Egbema, and Uguta in Imo State. There is Obia and Imirige, both in Bayelsa. There's also Obodo, Amadim, and Hueli in Delta States were also listed as hotspots. Then, when you cross over to to rivers, you'll hear of communities as Egorobi Creek. There's Gokana. There's Iba community and Emoha, Rumoji, and Degema, all in River State, that is. I mean, I'm sure I've murdered some of these communities, but these are communities, their names, I mean, these are communities mentioned and fingered for, you know, illegal activities, which are, by the way, not letting up, in spite of all of the efforts by the government to stop them, including employing ex-militants in multi-million naira pipeline security contracts to secure oil and gas assets in the Niger Delta region. Why is that still not working in spite of efforts like that?
Yeah, you see, I like what you mentioned about the contracting the private company. I think it's called the Tantita Security Company.
Yes.
Yeah, so that contract alone amounted to about 48 billion naira.
Sure.
48 billion naira. And even President Tinubu, when he came, he renewed that contract. And some reports are saying that this private security company is being paid 4 billion naira every month, if that is being confirmed. But still, you still have these illegal connections, this oil theft going on, and then you wonder, where is it coming from? So is this investment in the security working? Should we continue to rely or depend on the private security company? The Nigerian security force is not adequate, not enough with technology we have. I understand it's a very difficult terrain.
True.
Not everyone knows the movement of these people and location, the hides out, but it's still going on. One of the reports said that a single pipeline of 200 kilometers, they found more than 259 illegal connections, which means in every 1 kilometer, there are at least 1 or 2 illegal connections. And then you ask yourself, and no surveillance, no oversight, no people seeing all these people, 259 illegal connections within just 200 kilometers. nobody can provide surveillance and supervision on this pipeline, you ask yourself. So I think for me, there is complacency from the people who are supposed to be responsible for protecting this pipeline. We can use technology to provide the security or supervision on this pipeline.
At what point? At what point? Because, I mean, you've talked about this technology, whether they are for monitoring at the upstream, midstream, or even the downstream sector. I want to believe that to some extent that we do have technology in place to monitor oil production, perhaps maybe at the initial stages of production, and even at the port terminals where crude weights and oil products perhaps are waiting to be shipped out to international locations. But when we say technology, and then how well do we, monitor perhaps maybe something like transportation of products from corporate storage facilities now to other locations? I guess my question to you is, where do you think the lapses exist along the crude oil value chain, and how can technology adequately plug existing leakages and close the gap?
Yeah, you see, technology is one thing, but human sincerity is another. If only,
the human factor.
Yeah, the human factor. So the technology might tell you the truth. Somebody is vandalizing this pipeline. And it's you, human being, that will now take action and decide what to do about it. But if you are already part of the system or the group doing the corruption or the stealing, so you not take action, you not report it. So you even abuse the technology. There's so many technologies in Nigeria, but no technology will ever work unless the people are serious to fix their problem. We don't even need technology in the first place. If people are patriotic, people believe that this is
how much so can political will change the human factor that we're talking about here?
Yeah, you see, a lot of people think, I'm not underestimating the political will, but we also have to talk about the people's will. If the leadership is willing, the people also have to be willing.
True.
Because if leaders want people to be patriotic and people are not ready. So the big question is, how much do we love the country compared to how much we love ourselves? So it's a question of patriotism. And it's a question of we believing that this resource is for collective development of this country. True. Especially this trying time. We see poverty. People are dying, especially people at the lower income level. So the income level is shifting, and the people that are already at the lower level of the income status are dying, are leaving the world entirely because of the hardship. So people have to feel the empathy about other people. It's not about yourself, but other people. And if you look at the costs that the country is also incurring because of this illegal activity, every day we are losing more than 65 billion naira, and we're talking about 43 million US dollars. And if you can get this into our foreign reserve, the naira will appreciate. The biggest challenge we are facing is the naira devaluation or depreciation, because it's not the removal of subsidy that has caused this severity of the problem. Because if the naira has appreciated, or the value of the naira is kept the way it was, even with the removal of subsidy, Nigeria will not face this kind of problem at this magnitude. So the severity of the problem we are facing is because of naira losing its value. And there is no way we can protect the naira unless we have the foreign reserve. And where do we get the forex? It's from the oil. So we have to look at the magnitude, the extension of the problem that we're creating, not only on our immediate environment, which leads to pollution of the place. Because imagine
environmental degradation.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine you come and blow up a pipeline just to steal 500 barrels or 5,000 barrels. So you're creating spillage around and then polluting the environment, the farmlands, the river around, all the animals in there are dying.
And there you go again. And there you go again, advocating for environmental.
So you see, the costs are so enormous. If you look at the integrated loss, it's so much that because the environment, the economic, the other people that you are also causing them to experience pain. Now, even the governments cannot help much because, like I said, the oil sector is the one that we can really rely on to get out of this. And that's the only sector we have foreign investment. And these investors who already are leaving the country, we already have investment lag building up to the PIA. Because when the PIB was being discussed at the National Assembly, most of these investors delayed their investment. Even during the COVID, there was some investment delay. So we have investment lag. And this is the time when investors need to come back to Nigeria. And if you're experiencing this theft, they will not come because we have other countries that have found new oil. And most of our wells are matured oil wells. So they need some advanced recovery method, which also require financial investment.
True.
So if we let them like this, they already reached their peak level, so we can still keep them up there or enhance their production. But it requires what we call the tertiary recovery investment so that we can keep these wells alive and for longer time. But if investors are not coming, then these wells will plummet and go down.
Very true.
And then soon, there was even a time when we did less than 1 million barrels in a day. And where do we get the forex? And if we don't have the forex, we don't have the economy because we are largely import-dependent country. So no income. Even NNPC is complaining about so much liability. The federal government is expecting so much from the NNPC. NNPC has so far given more than 330 billion naira directly from its profit or dividends to the FAC. And at the same time is paying almost 40 billion naira daily to just for cost recovery for the importation of PMS in the country.
Dr. Ado, I hear you. Sorry to butt in here, but we need to begin to wind up. We're fast losing time. I like how insightful you've been, as a matter of fact. There is an international dimension to this whole, crude oil theft, and I would like your thoughts on that. I recall that sometime in 2022, the UN reviewed that oil is the largest stolen natural resources globally, while fuel is the most smuggled natural resources. They put it at about $133 billion per year at the time. So if oil theft equals about 5 to 7% of the global crude oil and petroleum fuel markets, why the seeming ineptitude by global bodies to clamp down on maybe shipping companies and vessels buying stolen crude oil from our shores? Otherwise, do we assume that sanctions by global bodies, on oil theft are simply not working?
Well, we are responsible. We should not rely on other people.
Can we?
Because there is
Do you think our navy, for instance, can adequately monitor our waters or international waters?
Yes, we are capable because there is no person that can come to Nigeria and steal Nigeria's oil without Nigerians. Nigerians are involved. If we have not provided the environment, if our people are not the patriotic, if our people are patriotic, there is no way somebody will come to Nigeria and steal Nigeria's oil. So we are part of the problem. Okay. So it's not the international. We have to do our part. And it becomes easier for the international partners or international bodies to help us. And we look at 400,000 barrels a day being lost. And we are waiting for somebody out there to come and help us. The NNPC has spent more than 130 billion in 2023 just for security, repairs, and maintenance of this vandalized pipeline. This is our problem. And then we have to talk about supervision, oversight. Yes. We have to talk about the corruption, the lack of patriotism, and lack of punishment. We don't punish these activities. I heard that Mele Kyari is saying that we are banning the vessels that we found stealing, but other small theft.
And just quite recently as well, former governor of Edo State, Senator Adams of Shomole, actually argued or is recommending that saboteurs in the oil sectors should face the death penalty.
Well, because people are dying indirectly because of that theft. Because if government does not have the capacity to help people, to lift people out of poverty, that means you're killing people by what you are doing. And I'm so hopeful with the PIA now that has provided provision for the host community trust fund. We are responsible for securing this pipeline. So I believe if we are going to focus more and ensure adequate implementation of the host community trust fund, these young boys will not be doing that. And they will not allow even these big cartel and big officials at high level, because everybody is involved. Every person you see in the value chain could be culprits. So, but these young people, if they know that this community will benefit, if we protect this pipeline, and I think this
taking
is
ownership, community ownership.
Yeah, community ownership. This will help. I'm very hopeful with this. We have to show commitment. We have to sit down with these people, discuss with them, and give them. We're talking about 3% of the previous year operating expenses, and that's a huge amount. And then these leaders, this community, they are the ones to now to implement, to utilize these funds for their community development.
Sure.
It's not given to the state government, because sometimes you may say derivation fund is given to the governor, and the governor decide what to do, how to do about it. It might not reach your community, that where you are facing these consequences.
Associate Professor and Petroleum Economist, Dr. Ahmed Adamu, I would like to thank you so much for coming on Insight. I mean, your thoughts on this issue has been quite insightful.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you so much. Elizabeth Omori comes up next.